Hi, and welcome to this Enterspeed introduction and demo. I want to give an introduction to the basic Enterspeed concepts, and I want to give a demo of the main features of Enterspeed, show you how the schemas works, and show you how you can use Enterspeed as an integration layer. I'll round off by highlighting a couple of interesting items on our roadmap. But let me start by giving the intro to Enterspeed. Here in this slide, you'll see a 1, 2, 3 model of how you use Enterspeed. You send your data to Enterspeed, you define the data model that you need on your front end, and then you fetch the data on your front end. And going a bit more into detail, what happens is that you have some various source systems. You then send the data into our speed layer. The first part is the ingest API. The next part is the transformation. This is where you define your models using the schema. I'll get back to that. And the final part is the delivery layer. We call it the delivery API that then makes the data available in multiple geographical regions, and you can fetch it for your front end and various other things that you need to get some fast data from. To put this into a context of the modern composable architecture, for the last few years, we've seen that more and more are breaking down their monolithic stack and building with more standard services. Some would know this as the best of breed strategy. So you choose the CMS and the commerce engine that is best suited for your needs. We also see people choosing, for instance, a product information management system, and they still have the need for getting those data onto their website. And often we see people sending that data from the backend system into the CMS in order to make it available for the front-end application. And we will now introduce Enterspeed as the speed layer component in this stack. And both from an architectural point of view and from an operational point of view, we introduce Enterspeed as an abstraction layer that helps bring more agility and helps bring more performance into your websites. So instead of using the CMS as a middle layer that it's probably not designed for, you can send the data from your PIM directly to Enterspeed. You can take your CMS that may or may not be designed for performance. Usually we see it's not. And send that data to Enterspeed, and then you have a very clear and decoupling from your backend systems, both architecturally and operationally. So when it comes to performance, you can get a different kind of performance, and you can do it regardless of what kind of backend systems that you have. I'll show you that when we get to the demo. Putting this into more context, we see Enterspeed as the glue that pulls all of the different pieces together in your architecture. Another possibility with Enterspeed is to send, let me get back to that slide, is to send the data to Algolia, and then you can use Algolia for indexing. And we'll see here a client that we have that are working with commerce tools and Realize and Algolia as their stack, and using Enterspeed for having the static data from Enterspeed and serving that to the front end. three fundamental concepts in Enterspeed is that we have an entity, and we get that from a CMS. So it could be a node in your CMS, a page, send that to Enterspeed, and we store a copy of that. Then we have a schema, and the schema is where you define the data model that you need for your front end. And we take the entity and schema, put them together, and we'll create what we call a view. And that view is then what we are pushing to multiple geographical regions and making that available to be served very performant via our delivery API. Speaking of the delivery API, the way I introduce it is as a key value store, and we have two different kinds of keys. We have the URL you see here, so you can think of it as a headless copy or headless version of your pages in your CMS. The other type of key is the handle. Here it's used for navigation, but it could also be dictionary items, footer, settings, and all the other things that are reused across the different pages on your website. And we offer all of those pieces in one single API request to make it possible to deliver a fast server-side response time for your front-end application. But let me move out of this slideshow and move over to the demo. Here we'll see Enterspeed application. We have let me just sign into my Umbraco installation. I prepared both Enterspeed and Umbraco with some default settings and content. And in Umbraco, I installed the Enterspeed source integration. I configured it with a couple of API keys, one for the preview data and one for the publish data. And this is also what we then see in Enterspeed. And currently Enterspeed is empty, so there's no data in Enterspeed. The way to get that content from Umbraco onto Enterspeed, let me just get myself out of the way. I think I can fit over there. So I'm on the front page, and I simply just want to push all of the content from Umbraco into Enterspeed. I'm doing that simply by publishing. So this is what our Umbraco source integration are doing, and I can get over to Enterspeed, and I can see that we have the data available in Enterspeed. And I can just briefly go through this 1, 2, 3 model, and this is step 1. We get the sources into Enterspeed. We have the schemas lying here, and then we go to the views that we have over here. We have that created. Here's an example of a content page. And then we have the delivery API. I can briefly show that. I just create a new HTTP request, and I can get that request created in Enterspeed. And then we'll see the step 3 is the delivery API. But moving back into Enterspeed and what's actually happening in this schema thing. Let me just take this schema and make it as simple as possible. I just need to remove all of those bits and pieces. I'm gonna save it, deploy it, and then what happens in the background is that we take all of the content and we'll generate the views, And we'll see here we have some very boring views, but this is for showing you what's actually happening here. I can then just put this back as it were. We have the headline property. We're gonna map that to the page title property of our source data. I'm gonna save, make sure everything works again, deploy it, and I can get back to the generated views and see that now we have an individual copy of all of the views ready. And if I go to my website, we'll see here that we can see a website. Let me just get out of preview mode. That is for later. And if I update my content, we'll get that data sent to Enterspeed, and almost instantly we get that data pushed to Enterspeed, transformed and made available in multiple geographical regions, and we can fetch it from the API. And that's important for us, and in the way that we do performance in Enterspeed, is that there's no cache that needs to be hydrated by a user. There's no time to live TTL that needs to be outdated. As soon as we get data into Enterspeed, we update the delivery API and made all the content available immediately. So that was the basic of Enterspeed taking a piece of content, making it ready for the delivery API. I want to show a quick little feature, because we also support preview. So if I, as a content editor, want to see, okay, the tone of this fairy tale should actually be a bit darker. I want to see how it looks. I'm gonna save, and then I can put my front end into preview mode. And I can see here now we have the save family. Okay, currently happy. Let's see what happens. I might not have done that correctly. Let me just make sure I'm in preview mode. Yeah, we have it. We have the set family, and we can see we have this set family, and then we are happy. We can go back to the CMS and do a save and publish. I now want to show a couple of features of the delivery API. And if I go over here to the request I had before, I know I want to have the I remember I had something about a happy family, and let me see how that works. Oh, that's right. I renamed it. So we have a feature here of the delivery API that can tell the front-end application that URL that you're trying to deliver is actually changed. So you give it the 301, and then you give it the URL that it needs to redirect with. Another feature is if you send a request on something that doesn't exist, we also send you a 404. So it's just to show that this headless API is ready for your front-end developers to work as a complete solution for making your website headless. Yes. The next thing I want to show you is when you want to have data from multiple data sources. Here I have a jobs page in my CMS with a list that I want to have a list of job openings on. And those jobs are not coming from my CMS. I have a third-party HR system, and here we can see I created a source for the this demo HR system, and I want to include the open positions from this third-party system. And the way to do that with Enterspeed is, I'll just quickly show you here that we have the jobs page. This is the same as we saw with the content in Umbraco. And here we have the data I want to insert. This is our ingest API. It accepts whatever JSON structure that you create. Send that to the ingest API. There's a couple of headers, HTTP headers you need to set, an API key, and you need to set the type of source entity as well. And in this example, we are also adding a URL. So let me send that to the Enterspeed API, and we'll see here in the jobs page that the property down there is now being have now added the two jobs I just inserted. And let me show you how that works in Enterspeed. So we have a jobs page, and here we have the same stuff I showed you on the content page, and we have the jobs property, and here we're using the input feature together with the lookup, and here we're creating basically a query into the data that we have in Enterspeed. So we say we want all of the source entities of the type job, and we want it from the demo HR system. And this is how we want them to be presented in the front end. In order to make sure we update the views, is that we create a schema that triggers on the demo HR system and the job type, and when something happens in that, we create we want to process the jobs page in the Umbraco source. So that was how you merge data in Enterspeed. One of the things we also have in our UI here is the deployment system. I briefly showed you before that we can deploy to a environment. And if we want to publish to a different environment, making sure that, for instance, my schemas are aligned from environment to environment. It could also be like the staging and production and so on and so forth. And I can say I want to make sure that my preview environment matches with the schemas on my published environment. And we'll actually see that it's so smart that it could tell me there was no difference in what you're doing. But this way you can, from one place, manage the entire environment to publish to. Let me deploy that. And now we have parity between the preview and the published environment. Let me get back to my presentation and talk a bit about our roadmap. The first item is the CLI. I just showed you before how you can use the Enterspeed management app to deploy, and with the CLI we want to make sure that you as a developer can include Enterspeed in your CI/CD pipeline. We are developers ourselves, so we know the importance of having a predictable and repeatable deployment process, and that is of course also something that you should be able to do together with Enterspeed. The next thing is GraphQL. We are currently working on allowing you to query the Enterspeed data using GraphQL. We'll see more and more adoption of GraphQL, and we actually feel it's a really good match to the way we think about empowering the front-end developers even more and making sure that also the front-end developers that prefer GraphQL have a efficient way to use Enterspeed, and an efficient way and a performant way, none the least, to work with the APIs. And for now, I just want to leave you with a couple of links. I hope you got a understanding of how Enterspeed works, and I encourage you to sign up and try it, and also visit our documentation and our open source components for integrations and our demos on our GitHub page. Thank you for watching.